All right, hello, and welcome to Afternoon Drive here on Joppa Radio. My name is Drew Moholland. Thank you for joining us for another Tuesday afternoon. It is hot out there. Heat wave day 3, making it official this afternoon. I think it happened about 2 hours ago, the official heat wave, 3 days in a row. And I think we might actually make it 4 days in a row tomorrow, so we will see how that goes. But stay cool out there. I just jumped in the pool myself before I came over here. Got to take the dogs out real quickly. Would you believe it? Actually, I went to go get the dog a kiddie pool because they don't really like going in the big pool, but they need to. I thought they might like a kiddie pool. And the PetSmart place said that they were all out of them. They've moved on to the next season. They have Halloween stuff for the dogs, which I don't even know what that means. I'm not even sure what the Halloween stuff means for the dog, but I said, so you won't be getting any more in? And they said, I don't think so. So I said, well, that's not very good. But anyways, my neighbor has one, so they use that. But no dog for the pool. I got to be better next year and get ahead of the game and get the dogs a kiddie pool. That is my goal. Tyler Neufeld in the house today. He's producing. Hello, Tyler. Left hand there it is. See the left hand coming in the shop? Very good. Hello to everybody streaming at home, watching on TV and all that good stuff. And of course, our loyal radio listeners. For those of you who want to get a podcast of any past shows or YouTube, all that good stuff, go to ncmhub.org. You get the YouTube icon in the top right. The podcast version is up there as well in the top right. So Tyler does a good job of loading those things on and getting them up after all these shows. If you want to go catch a past episode, go do that. This one will be up there pretty soon too as well. In just a moment, I'm going to be joined by Scott Billington and Johnette Downing, two local musicians, and they are ready to play some music on a Tuesday, which you all know I love doing very much. Yeah, that's about it. Be careful with the dogs. Be careful with the pets in the car, all that stuff. I was just hearing another horror story. Somebody leaving the dog in the car. It happens every summer. It happens to everybody. It's not good. Never mind kids. I always think of the pets because you don't think of the pets, but kids too. Be careful in this heat. It is dangerously hot out there. So, but why don't I get out of the way because we got our two great musicians already in the house. We'll take one quick break. We'll be back, introduce these guys, and play some music for you too today. All right. Thanks for joining us again on another Tuesday afternoon in Newburyport. My name is Drew Moholland. Afternoon Drive, Joppa Radio. All right, there's a friend of us, all of us here actually, E.J. Ouellette there, Conjure Man. He's been on the show. I think he played that on the show last time he was here. But my two guests today know E.J. very well. Scott Billington, Johnette Downing. How are you guys?
Doing great.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, this is very nice. Very excited. So what's the deal here? Scott, you are from this area, and Johnette not so much, but...
Yes, I've actually lived in Newburyport for 45 years.
45 years, my goodness.
So not quite a native, but close to it.
Close to it, all right.
And I was a part of the music scene here in the early 70s, mid-70s, when all the artists and painters and so forth started moving to Newburyport because it was an inexpensive place to live.
Yeah, nothing's changed at all, right?
No, nothing at all.
Oh, that's funny. All right, and Johnette, you are from
New Orleans.
The Bayou. Is it technically the Bayou, or is it? I've said the Bayou before, and no, not the Bayou, but it's like a separate part of New Orleans, right?
Right, but they do call it the Bayou States sometimes. Yeah.
Well, there you go. I guess the people that really know what they're talking about, they say that's not really the Bayou.
Right.
But very good. So what brings you? How'd you find Newburyport? How'd you find Massachusetts? How'd you find Scott?
I found a lovely man named Scott Billington, and we met at a music conference in New Orleans.
Oh, okay.
And we fell in love, and we got married, and so now we spend our time in New Orleans and in Newburyport.
Split it half and half?
Yes.
All right. Fell in love at a music conference. That could be like a new album or a new song or something?
Well, we just made an album together called Swamp Romp, which came out a few months ago. It's an album of Louisiana roots music for families.
And
it's a continuation of what I've done for...
Right in the face. There you go. It's a continuation.
It's a continuation of what I've done for most of my life, which is to produce records. And at this point, I've made over 100 records of Louisiana roots music. People like the Dirty Dozen and Buckwheat Zydeco and Irma Thomas, Bobby Rush. And a lot of that came together on this record by tapping all of these different Louisiana roots music styles and bringing in the musicians who could perform them with us, perform these songs.
It is true. All that New Orleans music, it kind of got all stirred up there and turned into all these other different genres.
Absolutely,
too, right?
yeah.
What's the who did the cover work, by the way? As I as Tyler cut to it, I got a quick look myself, and I said, "That is attention getting."
Is it beautiful?
It is
Yeah,
very
it's
nice, yeah.
Heather Stanley. She is an artist in New Orleans, and we have a book together. We have 2 books together, Petite Pierre and the Floating Marsh and Madame Grandois. But she's an amazing artist, and we have a whole booklet in there with the lyrics and the history behind each song, and educational tool for parents and teachers.
Cool. 16 songs on this album.
Yes, I know. People are like, ooh.
Big album.
I know.
It's in the Spotify world here. They don't. That's a lot for one album. I don't know how you're going to keep the kids' attention. It is funny though when you actually. Even I don't hold CDs very often these days, just with the digital world. If anything, I think I was talking with EJ about this last time. A lot of records I'm collecting now, which is odd. Those are kind of coming back, but it's nice to have the CD and the artwork. It kind of gives you the record feel, but not quite. I always like the CD.
But it's interesting that the LP is going to outlive the CD at this point, and everything is just moving so fast into the streaming world now.
I know.
It's but it's good. I mean, people are engaged with music in some instances in a bigger way than they were before. So it's good.
Do you find there's a do you ever find there is a disconnect where people like maybe just going for the one song that they somehow fell upon with you guys, and maybe not giving the whole album a chance though, because that is the one complaint, right, with the streaming world?
I suppose. I mean, as someone who's produced a number of records over the years, I still kind of look at the album as an art form where you can just tell a story that starts in one place and ends someplace else, and there's a journey to be taken when you listen to the whole album. But I don't know, attention spans aren't what they used to be.
They are not.
And if somebody wants to listen to one song, then that's fine with us.
But in the children's world, CDs, are still being played because children still have CD players in their rooms, slowly. It's sort of like when we had cassette tapes.
Right.
The children's music field was still using cassette tapes when CDs were, it was really passé. But so they're still around.
How young is our audience, Tyler? Do you think we need to explain what a cassette tape is? No, we're not going to do that.
It's like an 8-track, but smaller. No.
We won't even get into the Walkman.
Right.
Did you ever have a Walkman?
My best friend in high school, actually. So he had
Best friend in high school. Okay.
Broke, and so he had to get a Walkman.
So it was like a relic. It was
hysterical at the time, but it was, I guess,
hysterical. Yeah. Okay. So they weren't exactly commonplace then. So what's it like? Do we play a lot live these days, or are we going New Orleans, Newburyport, playing live as much as we can, or is it how's the schedule for you?
Yeah, I play over about 200 shows a year.
200?
Yes,
Wow.
in schools, libraries, festivals. I've been playing music for children for 31 years.
Wow.
And now that we're together, Scott and I, we've been doing a family show as well. So it's a
very
duo
cool.
and a single, artist. But we have a show in Nantucket on Friday.
Very nice.
So at the Athenaeum. So if anybody's out in Nantucket, come see us.
Go. I actually know a few people going to Nantucket this weekend. It's a busy Nantucket weekend.
Oh, good. Yeah. They must all be coming to see us.
Yes.
Yeah.
They didn't mention it. I wish they would have mentioned it. Oh, that's fun. Well, I know you came prepared to get some music on the CD. You also have the guitar and everything. You guys want to do a live one first?
Sure, let's do a live one, yeah.
Yeah, we'll do a song called Feliciana Phaedra LaRue, and it's about a little Cajun girl, because in Louisiana, 40% of the people are francophone. They speak French, and she goes looking for alligators. I don't know, but she's Cajun. She knows what she's doing.
All right. Johnette Downing and Scott Billington here on Joppa Radio. Take it away, guys, and do your thing.
1, 2, 1, 2.
Swamp Feliciana LaRue was going alligator hunting like she wasn't supposed to do. She heard a noise, turn on her flashlight, saw alligator eyes shining in the night. Feliciana LaRue, what you gonna do? You got an alligator chasing after you. Feliciana LaRue, what you gonna do? Mon good Feliciana LaRue. Well, Grandpa made himself a lasso around the green snout. He thought it would go, but the alligator flipped around, and then Feliciana watched her grandpa fall in. The alligator thought it would eat well that night, but Feliciana wasn't giving up without a fight. She stuck out her tongue, shook her fanny with a call, jumped in the water with her pecan doll. Feliciana LaRue, what you gonna do? You got an alligator chasing after you. Feliciana LaRue, what you gonna do? Mon cœur, Feliciana LaRue. Well, if the Cajun people say, you know it is true. If you go gator hunting, take Feliciana too. She stuck her wooden doll in the gator's jaw, saved herself and her old grandpa. Feliciana LaRue, what you gonna do? You got an alligator chasing after you. Feliciana LaRue, what you gonna do? Mon cœur, Feliciana LaRue. Feliciana Phaedra LaRue. Feliciana Phaedra LaRue.
All right, nicely done, nicely done. Very good. This was very catchy. I was ready to start clapping over here.
All right, please do.
Bring the crowd in or something.
It's children's music, so jump up and dance, clap.
I've often thought that we should bring for some of these musicians, especially lively ones like you guys, we should just bring everybody in. All these.
Yeah.
I might pitch that someday. I don't want to do it without asking the boss, Sarah.
But if there are children out there listening today, please dance, clap along.
Oh yes, at home.
Yeah.
Yes, in your living rooms.
Right.
I was just laughing. Jeanette, you told me the story before we went here as you were playing the guitar, and I know you laugh about it now, but there was on a hot day like this once you had an issue on a radio show.
Right. Yes,
Tell me
my
about
my guitar was in a hot car.
Yeah.
And then we came in and I tuned. But if you know anything about guitars, they're a lot. If they're wooden,
Yeah.
they expand and retract with weather.
Yeah.
So they said, okay, do two songs in a row. Okay, so I tuned up and then started the song and it was totally out of tune. So I had to do 2 songs in a row with the guitar out of tune.
Oh
so,
my goodness!
So
It's a little bit horrifying, but you learn how to get around these things.
I know, and I'm like, I'm still this nervous.
And from then on, we tuned before already.
Right.
That's right.
I'm constantly-
We show up early now.
Oh man, that is too funny. Well, yes, true pros get through those sort of things. So nicely done. But
Thank you.
that sounded great. Nice harmonies and all that good stuff. Very good. So do you write most of the songs, or?
I do, yeah. That one I wrote, and then now Scott and I are writing many songs together, so it's been fun. So the album has songs that I wrote and songs we wrote together.
Oh, okay. How does that work? Writing songs together? Is it you take a line, I'll take a line, you take the next verse, or?
Yeah. Yeah, it's been
Well, it's interesting because I think Johnette probably writes a song every day. Some idea for a song comes to her and she starts singing it, and we'll get out her phone and record it. And some of them will ultimately evolve into full-fledged songs.
Yep.
It's kind of the same way with me, or maybe I'll think of just an instrumental passage or some sort of hook or a bass line or something, and then we get together and work on it together, kind of put everything together. Yeah.
In fact, I wrote one on the beach yesterday
She
in
did.
Newburyport.
She wrote a
That seems like
song
an
on the beach.
excellent spot to write a song, I would say.
Yeah.
A nice day for that. You have a lot of harmonicas over there, Scott.
Oh, I do. There are 12 keys, 12 major keys. So if you want to be able to play with other musicians, it's good to have all 12.
Be prepared.
Yeah, you can be prepared. That's right.
So this just means you don't know what Jeanette's going to call for a song, right?
Oh, I never know.
Changing the set list.
Right.
That is too funny. Well, how old is that song?
That one is probably since 1989, maybe.
1989?
Yeah, it was on one of my albums called Gumbo Pot, from the Gumbo Pot. But it's a popular one, and every show someone says, do Feliciana LaRue.
Yeah.
So we usually start with it in our set.
When you have these big albums, I mean, I'm looking at just this album is 16 songs and that song's 1989. You ever forget the words? My goodness, it's gonna be tough.
Sometimes, yeah. Because I have 11 albums for children, and so sometimes they'll say, do the zebra song. And I'm like, oh, boy, I haven't done the zebra song in 20 years. So sometimes it's funny because, working with children, it's so interactive. So I'll say, okay, I'll do it, but you have to help me with the lyrics, because
You don't have the benefit of the Stones and McCartney and Springsteen. They all get the teleprompter up there. You don't get one of those.
Not yet.
That's too funny. So this album is the new one. You have 11, huh?
11 albums,
Wow.
yes, for children. And I'm also a children's book author, and I have 25 books for children.
Wow.
Right.
And you're touring 200 days a year?
Right.
Where else how do you have time for anything else?
Well,
I do.
that's sort of it,
It's music and books.
We try to combine travel and tours and
Yeah.
What's the as far as is there like a popular summer show that you guys like to play? Maybe you do it every year, or a popular spot or
We
something.
love the Nantucket show, and we're hoping to have a few more gigs in Newburyport and this area next year.
It's a good spot for live music, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
What's
yes.
the biggest change since the 70s? You've been a part of it since the 70s. It's going to be, I'm sure there's some major changes, Scott.
Sure, because back in the early 70s, there were quite a few places to play every night in Newburyport.
Yeah.
10 Center Street, which is no longer 10 Center Street, had music every night.
Yep.
The Grog, we used to play there every other weekend for years.
Yeah. They still do a pretty good job, I think.
They
with
do,
music,
absolutely.
But yeah.
And there was a club out of the Rotary. Actually, Muddy Waters played out there. There were some big musicians that played in Newburyport out at the club at the Rotary there.
Wow.
And but it was a good centrally located place because I played in bands for many years with a talented musician from Austin, Texas, who had moved to Newburyport, a guy named Mike Allen.
Oh, okay.
And we would go up into Maine and New Hampshire and down to Boston and Connecticut, New York State, and this was a real centrally located place that sort of avoided the traffic in Boston, and it was a very inexpensive place to live back then.
Sorry, I hit
So,
zero.
it was it was a great scene. It really was a lot of fun. We actually made an album back then called the Grog Album. It was one of the first albums that I'd been involved in producing.
Is that live at the Grog?
No, not live.
Oh.
There was a studio on top of what was the Puritan building on Pleasant Street. It's all condos now.
Oh,
But there
no
was sort of
kidding.
a bunch of artist lofts and studios and so forth in there, and a lot of it was done there.
Really?
And there's still I noticed a photograph of it hanging up in the Grog with all of the musicians
Oh,
from
really?
that era there.
I'm gonna have to look for that next time. That's good. So that's the biggest change, though. You would say is just kind of fewer places to play.
Yeah,
Is that-
I guess so. I mean, it's just, there are so many beautiful things about Newburyport, and to see the city come alive as it has, and to see all of the renovation of the houses and the beautiful architecture here, I feel really fortunate to still be here and to have been part of it for so long.
Yeah, I asked you that because we have it stuck with me for some reason. I had one of the first bands we ever had on here was a full 4-piece band that came in, and I was asking them about playing around here, and they said, it's great when we get to. It's honestly, sometimes it's tough to get the gigs just because there's not that many places that are doing live music, and it costs them money to bring us in, and that sort of thing. And then if you're not playing covers, which is they were trying to do a lot of originals, a lot of places were saying, well, you're going to get the people that are yelling for the popular song right now, and that's kind of a turnoff. So they were like, well, you really need to have that place that will take in live music, new music, and songwriters, really.
Absolutely,
which is not always the easiest thing to find.
No.
But anyways, maybe back in the 70s it was easier.
Oh, man.
I'm sure you have other stories, too. Maybe we can get a few of those out of you. Do you guys want to try a little something off the album here?
Yeah, let's play Who Got the Baby and the King Cake. Now, this is a Dixieland jazz song. Johnette can tell you a little bit more about this and how she came to Dixieland jazz.
Oh, there you go.
So in New Orleans during Mardi Gras, we serve this. The centerpiece, the culinary centerpiece of Mardi Gras is king cake.
Okay.
And it's a circular cake like a king's crown, and inside we hide a plastic baby. And anyone who finds the plastic baby in their slice of king cake is crowned unofficially the king or queen for the day.
Like a plastic.
It's a little, yeah. And,
Okay.
and people in New Orleans know don't swallow don't eat it.
I was
Don't
gonna say,
swallow.
it sounds dangerous.
Yeah, it does. And you look, you investigate your piece of cake before you bite it.
Okay.
There's a baby in the cake.
I know, it's a baby in a cake. No, not a real one. It's a
Everybody
plastic.
becomes very slow eaters.
Yeah, and then you have to buy the next king cake, and you give the next party. So it's a way to keep the festivities going all carnival season, which is a long
Yeah.
period. And just because it just gives New Orleanians an excuse to have more parties. That's all.
I understood.
So that's what this song is about, and it's also one of my children's books by River Road Press, published it, and it's Who Got the Baby in the King Cake. And Dixieland jazz is one of my favorite types of music, because when I was a little girl, my parents would take us to the French Quarter in New Orleans, and we would stand in the jazz halls, the doorways of jazz halls, listening to Dixieland, and so it's just sort of, when I hear that music, it reminds me of home.
Yeah.
So I try to use Dixieland jazz as much as possible, and we have great members of the Dukes of Dixieland on there, and they're a phenomenal group.
Oh, it's a wonderful musician.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
All right. So this is track 2 off the new album,
Yes.
Swamp Romp. And Tyler, if you want to fire it, I'll bring it on up here. Let's get right into it.
Roll out the dough to make a king cake. Spread a little filling in the king cake. Braided it a circle for a king cake. Into the oven goes the king cake. Then you take the cake out of the oven. When it cools down, you add a little icing. Sprinkle colored sugar for a topping. Hide a plastic baby in the king cake. Let's party, it's Mardi Gras way down in New Orleans. Let's party, it's Mardi Gras. Well, you bring the rice, baby, I bring the beans. Who got the baby in the king cake? Did she find the baby in the king cake? Did he get the baby in the king cake? No, you got the baby in the king cake. What happens when you get the baby? You have to give the next party. Invite all your friends and your family to eat king cake and be merry. Let's party, it's Mardi Gras down in New Orleans. Let's party, it's Mardi Gras. Well, you bring the rice, honey, I bring the beans. Who got the baby in the king cake? Did she find the baby in the king cake? Did he get the baby in the king cake? No, you got the baby in the king cake. Who got the baby? Did she find the baby? You got the baby in the king cake.
Very cool. I am so happy you explained that to me before. It makes a lot more sense now. Oh, that is fantastic. Johnette Downing there. Scott Billington, again, our guest here today. Very cool. I love the horns in the background.
Thank you. Yeah, that's Tim
That's
Laughlin.
three of the greatest horn players in New Orleans. Kevin Clark on trumpet, Tim Laughlin on clarinet, and Craig Klein on trombone. And we have the
about
great
that?
James Singleton on acoustic bass and
Doug Belote.
Doug Belote on drums. A really great crew.
Did you record that in New Orleans?
Yes.
That, for some reason, these kind of albums with the horns and stuff, I always picture one big party in the studio when you're recording these things. Was it fun or?
Oh, yes.
Always
Lots
fun,
of fun.
yes.
Yeah, they actually nailed it on the first take.
Yeah.
And we just kind of looked at each other and like, whoa, good kill. And Scott is famous for saying, well, that was great. Now let's just do it one more time.
Oh, yeah, you weren't one of those, Scott?
One more time. So they did it one more time just for fun. You know,
that's
but
fun, yeah.
they had it on the first. When you work with musicians of this caliber, they just bring it every time.
Right.
You know?
Well, that is cool. That sounds great. Is New Orleans? I don't know. Was your area hit hard by the hurricane? where you lived, or
Barry or the Katrina, the big one?
I was thinking
Katrina.
but I
Yes,
guess
it
Barry
was.
too. I mean, you shouldn't underestimate those. That was a powerful one too. But
Yeah, just flooding for a Barry. But yeah, Katrina,
Yeah.
80% of the city was underwater. And
Yeah.
I was fortunate because I had a house. My house is on, it's on a ridge.
yeah,
So I'm 3 feet above sea level instead of 3 feet below
That's
sea
a
level.
hill.
yeah, it's a big difference there, right?
Kind of like High Street. I don't know.
I would say I hear there's still. I mean, it's obviously the city has come back, but I hear there's still very obvious, not necessarily devastation, but obvious, reminders of that. Do you still see it when you go there?
We do. It's kind of coming back in areas, and but it's hard when 80% of this. If you can imagine, 80% of the gas stations, post office. So it's a slow recovery, but it's yeah.
What was that like? I know a lot of the people of New Orleans gave a lot of credit to the music scene in the comeback, whether it be just shows after the fact or raising money, that sort of thing. What was it like in the aftermath to be a musician who's from there?
Yeah, it was difficult because we had during the storm, because there was a long recovery. So many of our gigs were canceled because there were no venues. But we have to give a lot of credit to Texas and other states. I mean, I was on the road for 2 months in my car, and friends I was booked all the way up to Long Island.
Wow.
So friends just started finding bookings. So I think other artists did that, but it also gave New Orleans musicians more visibility, I think.
Yeah.
Because we have so many genres of music, people became aware of the rich quality, the richness that we have to offer.
Yeah.
So it really did help in some ways, to get the word out.
I know the musician Alan Toussaint, who was a legendary producer and songwriter in New Orleans, said that Katrina was the best publicist that he'd ever had. But it was a tragic situation too, and there are still some parts of the city that really haven't rebuilt because they're areas that really shouldn't be rebuilt. Some of the city was built in a swamp. I think many people worried after Katrina that the New Orleans culture would not come back.
Yeah.
But it was stronger than many people thought, and traditions as varied as the Mardi Gras Indians, who are a carnival tradition of people masking like African Americans and parading through the streets, or the brass bands, the bands that play for second line parades, which are celebrations that happen every Sunday in the city when the weather is good, and traditional jazz of the nature of what we just heard with Who Got the Baby and the King Cake, with that traditional sound. Now there are young musicians from all over the country who want to play traditional jazz who are coming to New Orleans.
Yeah.
Because there's work there.
It is. It's
so
cool.
It really has come back in a very positive way.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, Scott Billington, Johnette Downing here, joining us on Afternoon Drive. Do you guys want to do one more live one, and we'll take us to a quick break?
Sure, sounds good.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. This one This one's called Mississippi, and it's a chant. And I learned how to spell, because I still live 2 blocks from the Mississippi River. And my mom taught me how to spell the word Mississippi, because it's a difficult word to spell, by teaching me this chant: M-I, crooked letter I, crooked letter I, humpback I, river. And she would wiggle her hips on the crooked letter, and she would raise her shoulders on the humpback letter for the S and the P. So we added music and made it a song. Here we go.
Oh, okay. I'm going to blast
He
over the
likes
other
it
here.
this way. Have no microphone.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
M-I, crooked letter I, crooked letter I, humpback I, river. M-I, crooked letter I, crooked letter I, humpback I, river.
Mississippi River,
rolling down the river.
Mississippi River.
Mississippi River. Crooked letter I, crooked letter I, humpback I,
river.
M-I, crooked letter cricket letter I, cricket letter I, humpback, I
river,
Mississippi River, rolling down the river,
Mississippi River.
Mississippi River. I river. M-I-S-S-I-S-S-I-P-P-I river. Muddy river, old man river, down the Mississippi river. Down the muddy Mississippi river.
Nicely done. Stand up back for me. Sorry. We'll adjust. Traffic jam. All right, very nice. We're going to do this. We're going to take one quick break. I'm going to play you guys on the way. Pick a track here to take us to break on the off the album. Your choice.
Yeah,
You remember?
Bamboo Rhythm.
Bamboo Rhythm. That would be number 8 there, Tyler. So we'll do that one to break. Much more with Scott Billington and Johnette Downing here in just a moment on Afternoon Drive. My name is Drew Moholland. Keep it right here. We'll be right back. Quick break. All right, welcome back to Afternoon Drive here on Joppa Radio. My name is Drew Moholland. Thank you for joining us on a Tuesday afternoon. It's very hot out there. Of course, if you don't know that, I don't know what you're up to, but it is a dangerously hot heat wave out there, so be careful. All those heat precautions. We are joined here today by Scott Billington, Johnette Downing on Afternoon Drive, playing some music, talking about the new album, Swamp Rump. There it is. Let's get that to in focus. There you go. That's it is a great cover. I like it very much. Again, who did it again? You mentioned it earlier.
Heather Stanley.
And she'll appreciate the second name drop, I think. Good job,
Yes,
Heather.
yes.
I've mentioned it twice. Good for you. So, what's the best part about being on the road these days? Is it just playing for other people that have never experienced your music, or is it more of a, could you be playing in front of 3 people and be fine? Yeah.
Yes, I
Yeah.
do. I say that,
Yeah.
with 3 people, 300, 3,000, it's
Yeah.
all the same,
Really?
Yes.
And no nerves,
No,
even when the crowd gets bigger?
no, I think the bigger it's easier.
Really?
Smaller,
I've heard
it's
people.
hard.
I've heard a lot of musicians say that. Why is
Yeah.
that?
Because with smaller groups, they're especially with children, they're feeling like, okay, we're the only
Yeah,
ones
that's true.
here, and then they feel a little, inhibited. But
Yeah.
I think the best part about it is having the honor of being raised in New Orleans and having all this musical
Yeah.
history, but then traveling and bringing that culture to other people. And I mean, even though it is a Louisiana-centered album, it's about dancing. It's about families dancing together. So in our shows, when we do our concerts, we teach families how to dance to Cajun songs and different. There's a Isleño, there's a Spanish song. We have multilingual on the album. So that's the thing is for me is to have. Because that's how I grew up.
Yeah.
Every time there was music playing, families danced together. You didn't, So that's what we wanted. That was the aim of this record, and to teach people about the different cultures and the different types of music from Louisiana.
What a fun upbringing! Always having music in the house, huh?
Yes, both my parents were musicians and singers.
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah.
Okay, well that works out well.
Yeah.
Scott, you said you moved here 40 years ago. Where were you born? Was it Massachusetts still, or?
Yes, I was born in Massachusetts, but I grew up in Arizona and New Jersey.
Oh.
And here and then back to Arizona. And
You're traveling the country as a musician at 5 years old, or no?
no. But right about the same time that I moved to Newburyport in the mid-1970s, I started working for Rounder Records.
Oh, okay.
And I just really stopped working for them. I'm still working for them a little bit, but just over the past few months.
Yeah.
And I've made a great many records for them over the years. I was really lucky to have found a place in the music business where I could work with the music that I love more than anything else.
Yeah.
And so for a great part of the time I was living in Newburyport, I was also going back and forth to New Orleans all the time because that's where I was making records. Even bringing people from New England to New Orleans to record. I made a record with the New Hampshire folk singer Bill Morrissey in New Orleans at one point. And I was very fortunate. My very first record that I made in Louisiana was by a blues guitar player named Clarence Gatemouth Brown in 1981. And that record won a Grammy. It was the first Grammy that Rounder had won. And I've since won 2 more. And just a couple of years ago, a record that I made by the blues singer Bobby Rush, who's from Jackson, Mississippi, originally from Louisiana, but he lives in Jackson now. Yeah. And John and I actually co-wrote a couple of the songs on that record with Bobby.
No kidding.
And and that one won my 3rd Grammy a couple of years ago. So
that must be exciting. What's that like, winning one of those things? I mean, I know that's so many people say that's like, well, you know, it's not what we do it for, but once you win one, it's kind of cool, isn't it?
You know, it's kind of. You know, I had set out at one point to go to college, and I never finished. Yeah. And I kind of feel like at this point, well, that's kind of like getting a college diploma, you know?
There you go, yeah. That's right. That is very cool. Did you expect to win, or?
No,
I've never. You had a chance, or?
I've never had any expectations. In fact, the night that the Clarence Gatemouth Brown record won the Grammy in 1982, I thought so little of his chances of winning that I wasn't even watching it on television. Wow. I was actually at the Grog playing a gig with the rockabilly singer Sleepy LaBeef.
Wow, no kidding. And, did you get word at the show?
Yeah, and somebody came up between sets and said, hey man, I think your record just won a Grammy. It's like, really? And it's like, well, and it had, and it was, wow. It definitely opened a few doors too.
That turned into a party at the Grog that night? Probably an extra party, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
That is funny. Very good story. It was always on Sundays, the Grammys, right? Was it that a Sunday night?
Sunday night, yeah.
Wow.
So,
well, he's such a humble person. When we first got together, I guess 6 years ago, I said, "Where's your Grammys?" "Oh, I think it's in a box somewhere." I said, "A box? Oh no." Took it out, put it on the shelf.
Oh, you had to do it for him?
Yes. He was like, "Oh, it's so embarrassing." No, but I was like, "You have to be proud of that."
Oh yeah.
So he has 3, but you know.
I'd be carrying one around with me.
I know.
Well, that is very cool. That must be a thrilling thing to us.
Oh, it really is. It's fun to be there and just be part of it.
Right, and one of your Grammys is with Irma Thomas, and we have a song with. We have a song with Irma Thomas.
Play it?
Yeah, let's play that. This is Irma Thomas is well, people call her the soul queen of New Orleans, and people know one of her songs fairly well. She had the original version of "Time Is on My Side" that the Rolling Stones covered just a few months after her record came out, and she has a beautiful, warm voice. It just makes you feel good when you hear her sing. She's 78 years old now, and she still sounds incredibly great.
Wow.
And a real institution in Louisiana music. And 2 years ago, she came to our set at the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival, where Johnette has played now for 25 years, I think. 30 years.
Yeah.
And she brought her daughter with her, and they danced in the audience to our set.
No kidding.
And we got to talking later, and she said, "You know, I know you're working on a record. I'd love to sing on the record with Johnette." So Johnette wrote this song called "Poor Rihanna," and we're both playing ukuleles on this song, actually, Johnette and I, along with James Singleton on bass and Doug Bellotte on drums. And it's just a very beautiful blend of voices, hearing Johnette's voice and Irma's voice together.
Cool.
So.
Yes, and I wanted to write a song because not every day in the life of a child is sunny and happy. And a lot of children have anxiety, so parents were saying, you know, what about my kids? So this is a song about those children who have times that aren't so cheery.
All right.
It's called Poor Rihanna.
And this is off the new one, track 5 off the new one, but you guys are going to play it live. This is great. So take it.
We'll
you're going to play it on this? Okay, you want to hear the...
So you can hear Irma, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that makes complete sense. Queued up. Thank you, Tyler. And here we go.
Every day She worries when the sun is bright, worries when the skies are gray. Poor worry Anna, poor worry Anna. Don't worry Anna. Don't worry Anna.
She worries when it's cold out. She worries when it's hot. She worries, should she worry? And worries, should she not? Oh, worry Anna. Oh, worry Anna. Don't worry Anna. Don't worry Anna.
Worry, worry, worry is all she ever does.
Poor worry Anna, she worries just because. Poor worry Anna. Poor worry Anna.
Don't
Be happy. Don't worry Anna.
Don't
Be happy. Don't worry Anna. Be happy, my darling. You're so young, my darling. Be happy Anna.
Well, I'm here with you, darling. No tears should be falling. Be happy, Anna.
All right, there you go. Poor Worry Anna off of Swamp Romp. Very nice. That must have been a thrill, huh?
Oh my goodness, it was amazing, and she's such a wonderful person.
Yeah.
And in the studio after she came in and we recorded together, she left. The engineer looked at me and he said, "You just did a duet with Irma Thomas." And it was like, oh. Then I was nervous. Like afterwards, like, oh my goodness.
And then you're like, she asked me.
Yeah, she did. Yeah, well, that just shows what a kind person she is.
Yeah. That's good. It's funny. I mean, you guys have been talking about all the musicians you bumped into over the years and stuff. It is kind of cool being a veteran of music circles like that. You just get to meet all these people and then bump into them on the road, and it is kind of a cool environment, isn't it?
Very much. Yeah.
It isn't. You know, Irma Thomas played with us at Jazz Festival this year. 2 years ago, she came to dance with her daughter, and this year she actually sat in with us during our set, singing that song with Johnette.
Okay.
And when she left the stage, she said, "Well, I can add that to my resume now because I've never played on the children's stage, and I've always wanted to perform for children." So there you go.
And what an amazing experience for the children in the audience to see Irma Thomas at the kids stage, you know, and they were that close to her. And it's part of my goal of bringing Louisiana music to children. It was just an amazing experience. And plus, we were just thrilled to have her, you know.
Yeah. I bet. It's funny. I just got a text message. My dad has a band locally here for many years out of high school, and he just sent me a text from the lake in Maine and said, "Enjoying you guys from the lake in Maine," and a picture from the water. So that's technology these days.
Nice.
I can picture him now laying on the boat and listening to you two. Very good. So that's pretty funny. That's where the Maine listenership is coming today. So as we in the final, oh God, the show's flying by. This is how it goes, I guess. 10 minutes here. I want to make sure I hit on a couple other things. Influences of you two. Who's the person that made you pick up the guitar, harmonica, started singing, all that stuff?
Well, my mother gave me a harmonica in my Christmas stocking when I was 11 years old.
Oh, wow.
And probably nobody remembers these anymore, but she got it with a book of green stamps. When you went to the
yeah.
supermarket, you give you these stamps and you'd put them in the book and then go trade them in for a blender or something like that. But she got a harmonica.
Good stocking stuffer for you.
And, I kind of messed around with it. I heard Bob Dylan play the harmonica, which was, okay. But when I was 14 years old, I went into the village with my friends, which we would tell our parents we were going to a ball game when we were living in New Jersey. And we saw the Mothers of Invention. We saw the Grateful Dead in 1967. And I also heard the Paul Butterfield Blues Band. And Paul Butterfield just blew my mind with what he did with the harmonica. And then I got really serious about it. And by the time I was a senior in high school, I was playing in all the Boston folk clubs. And it wasn't a long leap from there to come to Newburyport and be part of this music scene here. So,
have you ever seen Jimmy Fallon do his musicians playing harmonicas skit?
No, I haven't.
You should look it up.
That.
It's funny.
Yeah.
He's talking about how he's just learning how to do all those impressions that he does.
Yeah.
He goes, and like the Bob Dylan one's kind of unique because he just kind of does a song, plays it, and then he just kind of blows into it. And it's just kind of this high, and like usually you'd think it'd be terrible, but with Bob Dylan it just kind of works. But so it's a funny skit. You should give it a YouTube, everybody, and you'll get a good laugh out of that. I think Fallon harmonica will do the trick. But and you, Jeanette, how would
For me, my parents were both musicians and singers in the church, and they brought us every weekend to New Orleans, the French Market, to hear music. And I just knew my whole life I was going to be a musician and singer, songwriter.
Yeah, never strayed?
No, well, writing books, but many of my books are also my songs.
There's some overlap there.
Right, and you can sing and read some of my, my books. Yeah. So.
What's the, is there something, I can imagine with the younger crowds that maybe they can be a little rambunctious sometimes and maybe settle down their kids? Yeah. Is it usually easy to gain a kid's attention with these songs, or do you have to struggle sometimes or fight for their respect?
Well, I think because I call myself a wiggle worm because I'm a wiggly person too, Yeah. So I, after 31 years of doing this, I kind of have my set as a slow song, fast song, slow, so that you can really engage them and they can get up and move. And for me, movement is interactive songs are what it's all about in kids' music. So if they're not interacting, then you do lose them. So that's why dancing and moving is so important.
Yeah, get them involved.
Right.
You guys talked about the New Orleans Jazz Fest a little bit, and it's probably one of the more, maybe the most popular festival, but one of them up with that is Newport, which just happened, the folk festival, and of course they have the jazz festival too. But you see Dolly Parton came on stage this past weekend in Newport.
Right.
Wow.
With Brandy Carlisle.
With Brandy Carlisle, yeah.
Nice.
You guys are taking that in. I'm sure you guys like all sorts of music, so.
Sure.
Right. Yes.
Have you done Newport?
Yes, we haven't performed there.
Yeah, taking it in.
No, we've certainly been there. Yeah.
Yeah. You guys, you could be a good fit there in Newport, I think, on the wall.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Why don't we start recruiting? We're going to start recruiting for you guys. Nail that date down for you. Maybe EJ can help. I wonder if EJ's played. EJ's kind of a good fit too.
He may have. Yeah.
Sure.
I'll have to ask him next time. Well, anyways, let's do. I think we got probably time for one more. Do you have one?
Or do you want Jibalulu on the record? Let's do that. Yeah. Let's play.
Okay.
Since we're doing families, so we're going to do a French song. You want to tell them about it, Scott?
Yeah.
Speaking of EJ.
Yeah, well, this is a song called J'ai vu le loup, le renard et la belette, which I saw the wolf, the fox, and the weasel.
Can you spell that without looking at it?
No.
I bet you can.
Yeah, and we recorded this in South Louisiana with a wonderful Cajun fiddle player named Joel Savoie. And Joel is singing the song with Johnette here.
Bilingual? French?
Bilingual, so it's in French and it's in English, and Johnette sings the English lyrics and Joel sings the French lyrics. This is an old song. This is a song that came from France to Louisiana, and it's still popular with Cajun musicians. Cajuns were the musicians who left France. They went to Canada and ultimately ended up in the southwest part of Louisiana. There's still a very strong French culture there. Cajun music is their music. Cajun is sort of a corruption of the word Acadian. And it's just a place where there's lots of joy and life and music everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So
get up right now and dance with your
there
family.
You go. Dancing at home. There you go, Tyler. You got it all queued up there, bud? Here we go. Yep.
J'ai voulu le renard et la belette, j'ai voulu le renard danser.
I saw the wolf and the fox and the weasel. I saw the wolf and the fox dancing. I saw the wolf and the fox and the weasel. I saw the wolf and the fox dancing.
Les ai vus taper les mains,
I saw them clap their hands.
les ai vus taper les pieds.
I saw them stomp their feet.
J'ai voulu le renard et la belette, j'ai voulu le renard danser. J'ai voulu le renard et la belette, j'ai voulu le renard danser. J'ai voulu le renard et la belette, j'ai voulu le renard danser. J'ai voulu le renard et la belette, j'ai voulu le renard danser.
I saw the wolf and the fox and the weasel. I saw the wolf and the fox dancing. I saw the wolf and the fox and the weasel. I saw the wolf and the fox dancing.
Les ai vus après chanter,
I saw them all singing.
les ai vus après sauter.
I saw them all jumping.
J'ai voulu le renard et la belette, j'ai voulu le renard danser. J'ai voulu le renard et la belette, j'ai voulu le renard danser.
Well, that's fun. Sounds like a fun one to play, to listen to. That must get the party going.
It does, yeah.
It's one of the go-tos. Well, that's we got Johnette Downing and Scott Billington. Thank you guys so much. It's been a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed it.
It really is great to be here.
Oh, good.
What a great facility you have here.
We have fun in here, yeah.
It's so close to our house. We could have walked here.
It could have won. Well, yeah. Like traveling with the guitar. I like it. Walking down the road. But no, thank you guys so much. I hope you enjoyed it. If next chance to see you again is Friday in Nantucket, for those of you who are maybe getting away anyway in Nantucket. There you go. Change of plans for you for Friday. And you'll be starting when?
11 a.m. children's show, so it's the morning time. Yeah.
There you go. Got to get up early.
Not 11 p.m.
I had to get used to that. Now when they say the gig is at 11, it's in the morning. So
yeah, no, that's good. That's got to be different. I work at 3 a.m. usually, so that's right up my alley. That would be like leaving work and going out for a little bit. That's my go-to time. But well, very good. Safe travels to Nantucket and have fun and enjoy the rest of the summer, guys. Scott Billington, Johnette Downing, again, been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Merci beaucoup.
And thanks for all the great music. You want to play us on out with something here?
All right.
Yeah, let's do how to dress a po' boy.
Yeah, po' boy is a sandwich from New Orleans. So
All
this
right.
is dressing it. We're adding ingredients.
Scott Billington, Johnette Downing. We'll see you Thursday, everybody. Afternoon Drive.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3.